Earlier today, the FBI released 100 new pages from its investigation into Hillary Clinton's email scandal. Lawmakers from both the House Oversight and Intelligence Committees have claimed these documents contain evidence of criminal quid pro quo between Clinton's State Department and FBI agents. Former New Hampshire Governor John Sununu says this points to a pattern of criminal behavior when it comes to the way in which Hillary handled the State Department.
They couldn't resist trying to take advantage of this commitment to quid pro quo that the Clintons always operate under. It is, in my opinion, an absolutely damning event that says the FBI understood the sleaziness that was taking place there.
To get more insight into all the legal matters arising from these latest email revelations, we're pleased to be joined now by famed attorney and Newsmax blogger Alan Dershowitz. Alan is the author of the new book, Electile Dysfunction, a guide for unaroused voters. Alan, first, congratulations on the title. Now sadly, the news is not as humorous. These new documents that have been released, you just heard Governor Sununu say it reveals criminal activity on the part of Secretary Clinton. What say you?
Well, of course, he's not an expert on criminal law. It ought to be shown to people who are experts. The FBI obviously ought to investigate it carefully. Prosecutors ought to look at it. Every piece of evidence ought to be analyzed. And obviously, if there's evidence of crime, the chips have to fall where they may. I don't like criminalizing policy differences between people. I didn't like when Donald Trump said he would put her in jail or appoint a special prosecutor. Of course, the president has no authority to appoint a special prosecutor. But let the usual prosecutorial and investigative functions go forward and let the chips fall where they may. Everybody should be investigated. No one is above the law. A political candidate, even a sitting president, is not above the law.
Well, these leaks, these emails are problematic. For example, we had John Podesta talking about what kind of cooperation they could expect from the current president. One of his emails reads, "Think we should hold emails to and from POTUS? That's the heart of his executive privilege. We could get them to ask for that. They may not care, but it seems like they will." Now, this is discussing the fact that the President of the United States, and we now know, used a pseudonym to communicate with Hillary on those email servers and to ask for the use of executive privilege sounds to me like an attempt not to deal with a political problem, but to obstruct justice.
Well, again, one has to look at everything in context. Obviously, presidents and secretaries of state are both government officials and are political figures. And they discuss politics among themselves, and they discuss policy. And one has to sort out whether there really was a quid pro quo. Under American law, unlike some laws in other countries around the world, you need to show a specific quid pro quo. If you didn't, obviously, every congressman, every senator would be in jail because people make contributions to senators and congressmen in the hope of getting access, getting special treatment. What is a crime is if you give money to any public official in exchange specifically for a promise to do something particular. This is a very famous incident.
And I appreciate what you're saying about quid pro quo, from Latin something for something, and understand that. My point is that this communication from Podesta is something different. It's saying, hey, look, we can in essence have the president assert executive privilege to keep these troublesome documents out of public view. That's a different issue, but it's just as troublesome, both politically and in terms of possible criminality, is it not?
Well, not in terms of criminality. Simply suggesting an idea is never a crime. You'd have to ask whether the president did invoke executive privilege, whether it was proper for him to do so, whether he was invoking executive privilege for a proper purpose, whether he was part of some kind of enterprise. Right now, I don't see any smoking guns. I haven't reviewed, obviously, and neither has Sununu or any of the others. reviewed all the emails to see context and to understand. But look, as a liberal Democrat supporter of Hillary Clinton, the chips have to fall where they may. Everything should be looked into. Everything is fair game. Everything should be investigated. And everything has a double dimension. One, the political dimension. Do you think this reflects well or poorly on a candidate? And that's fair game. But second, if there is to be any criminal dimension, there has to be overwhelming proof of mens rea, of actus reus, of all the elements of crime. And so far, from what I've heard, I haven't heard that those elements come even close to being satisfied. And what we don't want, whether you're Democrat or Republican, we don't want to see policy differences turned into criminal prosecution. I took that position when they went after Tom DeLay, when they went after the former governor of Texas, both of whom are Republicans. So I'm strongly opposed to using the criminal law to make political statements, whether it's against Democrats or Republicans.
Let's turn to a subject that ultimately deals with our national security, and that is the Iraqi battle to retake Mosul. Does Iran somehow come out of this the benefactor in some way if the Iraqis should fall short? We've got about 30 seconds.
There's no question. Iran is coming out the winner all over the place. They are the biggest winners under the Obama administration. And I have to tell you again, as a liberal Democrat, I don't think the country in the world is safer over the last 16 years. I think we've had 16 years of disastrous foreign policy, 8 under Bush, 8 under Obama. And I'm hoping that the next 8 years will improve our position as leaders of the world, help us fill vacuums that both administrations created, one with the war in Iraq and the other with pulling out and not keeping promises on Syria and giving opportunities for ISIS and for Iran to strengthen their hand. So I think we are in a much weaker position over the last 8 and 16 years. And
whomever is elected the next president will have to deal with that very dangerous situation. Alan Dershowitz, author of the new book, Electile Dysfunction, a guide for unaroused voters. Alan, as always, we thank you for your time here on Newsmax Prime.